Well, our value as design professionals and as people isn't tied to what we can charge per hour. It's much more intrinsic, much deeper than that. When it comes to the bottom lines of our businesses, of our design firms, every hour of every day, of every project counts. I think you know that as well as I do. So today we're talking about ways to protect your time and protect your profits. Stay tuned. Giving architects and landscape architects the tools and strategies to be seen, heard, and valued in the marketplace, and telling the stories of leaders building thriving design firms and attracting their ideal clients. This is From Architecture to Profitecture. I'm your host, Jay Krakowski. Let's get started. Fellow and future Profitex, hello, how are you? Welcome to the show. And today we are talking about protecting your time. Probably the most valuable thing that we can have, again, not only as a firm owner and as a design professional, but as a person, is the one resource that we cannot create more of, right? So how do we protect our time on projects, with clients, with correspondents, in meetings, in getting the actual work done, and then billing for it? We're going to talk about all those things on today's show. So let's start with the good stuff. Let's start with money. Let's start with turning a profit at the end of the year, especially as we rapidly approach the end of 2020 here. What's one way to protect your time as it comes to, or as it relates to billing for a project? Well, one would simply be to bill hourly, if you can. If the project scope and scale and structure allows you to bill hourly, granted that's probably more on the sole or small firm side, as I am, an office of one here. But if that's an option for you, that's an excellent way to protect your time. Every meeting you're in, you're getting paid for. Every hour of pen to paper or mouse to screen, you're getting paid for it. So any time that you spend on a client's project, you're compensated for, and you don't get into the gray area sometimes of, well, there's a fixed fee and we're getting close to the end of this phase's billing, but not necessarily to the end of this phase's work. So we just need to put in extra, or there's 2 details I forgot, or I haven't figured this detail out yet. Well, if you're billing hourly, you're covered there. You're covered. So that's one way to do it. Now on a fixed fee or percentage of construction contract, you may choose to set revision limits. I do. My contracts are most typically fixed fee, and following a milestone deliverable, I have a set number of revisions. And that's to protect my time. That's to protect my efforts with other clients as well, where if another revision is requested, it's typically by the owners. Anything requested by municipalities or city, county, anything like that, I typically roll in. But I do set a limit with my clients on how many times they can tweak things before hourly charges kick in. So set limits. Now to take that even further, you may set a revision limit of 0. You may simply choose to deliver a particular design phase, and this leads into the next point of establishing clear design phases. You may choose to say, well, we went back and forth on ideas and concept. I'm delivering schematic design. Any changes that you want to make will be picked up in design development, or whatever you call your design phases if you're not using the industry standard nomenclature there. So you may say, we're not going to sit here and revise schematic design 4 times. Rather, we're going to keep things moving, and we're going to move right into design development. And at the end of design development, if you still have changes that come down the pike, as they say, we're picking those up as we're doing construction documents. And then potentially at the end of CDs, when a 100% set is delivered and more changes are requested, then you can have your hourly charges, your additional services kick in. But one way to protect your time is to establish clear design phases, milestones, perhaps tie them to a schedule, to a calendar, so that the client is crystal clear. Hopefully you've communicated that clearly on what's to be delivered when. And that's a great way to keep things moving in a project, but also to protect your time so that you're not spinning your wheels. Again, revising schematic design 4 times before you feel that you can move to DD, or rather before that the client feels it's appropriate to move to DD. You need to be the one, steering the ship. You're the design professional. You should be leading that charge of the project, and that all needs to be communicated clearly from the start within the contract language, not just verbally and in correspondence, which we'll get to later. Another way to protect your time is to include a contingency. Now, I see this more as an internal measure when you are when you're scoping and when you are establishing a fee proposal. Build in some extra for yourself. Now, be ethical about it. Don't pad the thing by thousands and thousands of dollars or hundreds and hundreds of hours. Maybe that's okay for you, but not for me. But include a contingency. You can sit and get real hard and fast, and it's going to take me 4 hours to do this. It's going to take me 8 hours for this sheet. It's going to take me 32 for these 2 detail sheets. Don't pen yourself in like that. I have done that before. It hurts a little bit. Leave a contingency. Call it 10%. Call it X number of days or X number of dollars to cover your time, but include a contingency. Yes, be accurate. Yes, be ethical in how you estimate a project. And as the firm owner or the leader, yes, you need to balance on, gosh, how much do I inflate that fee before I put myself out of the running for a project? Maybe you don't have it locked down. Maybe it's a brand new client and you're in competition, whether that's through an RFP process or just in corresponding with a potential client. You don't want to put yourself out of the running, and I can understand that, but you need to come first. Your firm needs to come first. You need to protect yourself and your time. So leaving a little buffer for yourself is not a bad thing. You'll get used to it, trust me. Give it a try on your next project if you're not doing it already. And that contingency is communicated where? In your contracts. You want to tighten up your contracts as much as humanly possible. I love using the term bulletproof. I know there's no such thing as a bulletproof contract. It doesn't exist. It absolutely doesn't exist. There's a lawyer somewhere that can get through the armor of any contract, but you want them to be as tight as possible. You want everything spelled out. You want to be as precise, over wordy, perhaps, as possible, again, to protect yourself and your firm. You need to spell out everything that you will deliver, and you need to spell out everything that you will not deliver. A list of exclusions is vital. It's on every piece of paper that I send out of this office. Has the list of exclusions on it, things that are not in the contract, things that I will not provide, limits of revisions, what happens when those revisions or when the revision count is exhausted and we need to go into additional services. You need to have your contract really, really buttoned down. It can't just be a list of phases. It can't just be a general description of the design. It needs to be super precise so that the client is not asking for more and more and more, and you don't have a leg to stand on to say no. So that may involve getting a lawyer involved, but that's important. This is your business after all. So get your contracts absolutely tightened up, and as part of that contract, you want to have your additional services protocols really nailed down. When do those kick in? When are they called for? How is it communicated? Is there a period of refusal? Do you need to have an okay, whether that's via email or in a written letter from the client before you start on any ad service work? What are the charges? How are they billed? You should have a real lengthy ad services section in your contracts if you don't already. It might be one of the largest sections of my contracts typically, but it needs to be clear that once the scope of work or the time involved or the dollars involved are exhausted, you need to have protections in place for yourself so that you're not spinning your wheels and spending extra hours, really days, right, on a project or with a client where it just eats up any profits from that project and then starts to eat into the profits of other projects. So if you haven't done it in a while, End of year is always a great time to take stock of everything, right? Especially this year. But take a look at just your ad services clauses in your contracts and see where they can be tightened. See where maybe you've been burned a little bit on past projects and how you can change that language. Let's talk about meetings. Let's talk about protecting your time when it comes to client meetings. Could be consultant meetings as well, but the example that's used more often than not, and the example that actually burned me earlier today, is all about meetings. Use a calendar and set an end time and communicate the importance of that end time. Now, I'm not telling you to lie and say, I have to be at my kid's dance recital at 3 o'clock if that's not true, but communicate that I've booked out 90 minutes for this meeting and we're going to cover ABC XYZ. Have an agenda. Very important. Even the smallest of meetings should have some sort of agenda. That could be a verbal agenda at the start of the call. Say, hey, thanks for getting on the call today. We're going to go through ABC XYZ, and if there's time left over at the end after the agenda's after you've gone through the agenda, great. You can continue to talk, or you can hop off the phone or off the Zoom, as it were, this year. Or if you're running short on time, say, hey, we need to table this. Maybe you feel comfortable, maybe you don't, saying, hey, we need to table items G and H here because I need to move on. And I think that those are things we can handle over email or over the phone later. Or do you just push through it and then as soon as you're done with the agenda, say, appreciate it and I need to go, and be firm about it. You should be unapologetic about your time, especially when it comes to meetings, because I think, as we all know, if you've worked in any firm of more than one, they can drag on. They really can. And you don't want that to happen week after week, month after month, because the sum total of those hours at the end of the year or at the end of your career can be pretty staggering. So have an agenda for every single meeting. It doesn't have to be a beautifully typed document here, but have an agenda that's set at the start of the meeting, and then communicate the start and end times of those meetings as you set them up, and again as you enter the meeting of when the end time is going to be. Now, oftentimes clients will call out of the blue in the middle of the day, hopefully not in the evening. Don't be afraid to defer an unexpected phone call. This took me a long time to do. This took me a long time to feel comfortable with it, rather. Certainly in the first year or two of a business, you probably take any call. You'll take almost any project if it suits your skill set. But if a client calls in the middle of the day, whether you're working on a project or not, don't be afraid to defer it. And I use the line, hey, I'm stepping into a meeting shortly in the next 10, 15 minutes. Can we reschedule? Can we set up a call so I can devote my attention to you, to your project? They will respond very respectfully to that. They'll actually appreciate that coming from you, that you are taking the time to set aside time for them. And while often those calls are about small things, those same calls can often run 20, 45 minutes before you know it, and you've eaten up the design time that you had set aside previously, or the time to review billing or your contract, anything like that. So be unapologetic about protecting your time, and if it's not a good time to take a phone call, but it's a valued client and you want to pick up the phone, it's okay to then defer. Be in integrity there. Pick up the phone and then defer, that you don't have the mental space for them at the moment, but you will make some. You will make some in short order. And that leads into general correspondence. Establishing limits on how you correspond with your clients from the start. Yes, that can be in your contract, but honestly, it needs to be probably more so in conversation. And that gets into your business hours and the times that you will respond, or perhaps on your email signature, you say, I will respond within 24 hours. That's fine too. The methods and the tech by which you correspond, communicating. One thing that I clearly outline with my clients is giving design direction. Making design decisions over text message is an absolute no. I will follow up with an email first reminding them of that, and then addressing the situation. Say, in the future, this needs to be in a format that can be searchable and referenced. A text message is not one of them for me. If you're running late to a Zoom meeting, if something comes up that can be more casually discussed, yeah, text is fine. I do text with my clients, again, within certain hours, not after business hours. I don't respond to text at 9 p.m. at night, as some clients love to do, don't they? But you need to be clear on what those protocols are. And it's okay to spell those out in contractual language. It may seem rigid to some. It certainly seemed rigid to me at first, but after too many late night texts, I realized that this is crazy. That the work-life bleed was, well, it was work. It just became 90% work, and that's not healthy for your headspace, for the devotion you can give to the design and to the client when it's at all hours of the day. And also the frequency of correspondence. Set your expectations from the start with them. Rather, set their expectations. Are you going to be providing a weekly project email of what you worked on that week? Or is it a monthly synopsis? Or do you say you can email me from this time to this time in the mornings, but you can't be sending me 16 emails all day. Or if you do send me 16 emails, I will respond between 9 and 10 a.m. the following business day. Set limits on all these things. And it's okay, again, I'm using the word unapologetic because I think it's really important, and it's hard for someone who's on the side of people pleasing for a good part of their life to now come in as the owner of your design firm. You need to set limits. You need to be strong in that. And yes, it's okay to want to please your clients and to deliver the best work that we can. But if you're giving all of your time away, then at the end of the day, you don't have profits and you don't have a business. So love to hear your thoughts on any or all of those. And if you would, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That's the best place to leave a review. Let me know that you like what you're hearing. And if you have other things you'd like to hear about, send me a direct message at Jay Krakowski, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. As a reminder, we're here live again every Thursday at 3 p.m. Appreciate you all tuning in, whether that's live or on the replay. And until next time, make it a great week, because our success is inevitable. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you stay up to date with future episodes. Connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn at Jake Krakowski. And for show notes and much more, visit profitecturebydesign.com/podcast.